Boom. We're back. I talk softly now. So here we are, David Rolland. We met at the basketball court, right?
You've got a true jump shot?
Yeah, I haven't shot that well in a long time, man. I don't know what it was that day. Maybe that's why you're here.
Yeah, I want to learn the secret. I want to learn the secret of the jump shot. I don't think you missed. Maybe you missed once and you called a foul on my brother.
Miss. Yeah, he got a little pissed, man.
He got pissed. He has a temper.
He's like, "Oh, how dare you call a foul on in the pickup?" And I'm like, "Dude, like you hit my hand, affected the shot completely. Like, I don't know, like, sorry, dude." Anyway, I don't always call it, but anyway, let's move on. That was fun, and I had a feeling like I knew you from somewhere. Yeah. Like I feel like we were just like meant. Like it's kind of when you're like you feel like you know someone, and you're just like, wow, like I think you know what it is. I've been probably reading your articles for a very long time.
Oh, awesome!
Because I read them. It's like one of my main sources for researching Miami, finding new characters. Yeah, that's like one of my honestly the podcasts. Like my love of Miami. Partly fueled by how great Miami New Times is, like much respect.
Wow.
I've lived in many cities, and every city has a similar kind of local news organization. But I gotta say, like, the best things to do this weekend of Miami New Times. That's like a must read, and you gotta like supplement it with some other sources maybe, but it's always great. That's just reliably there for you, like on a Monday or whatnot. But so basically every single podcast is kind of like a biopic. So like we kind of go through your story, your biography, where you're born, all that, and kind of like paint a picture of your character and what we can learn from you. So and what also you can discover maybe is next for you. So where were you born?
I was born in Evanston, Illinois.
Evanston, okay. Is that near Chicago?
That is right outside Chicago. And then when I was a baby, my parents moved here to Key Biscayne, Florida.
Okay. And what did you do for college? You went somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I went to Florida State University up in Tallahassee.
Nice.
So that's where I had some interesting adventures, and the first time I was published as a writer, I wrote for a couple newspapers there, so that was exciting at the time. I got paid to write.
Was that your first time getting paid to write, or?
Yeah. I think I wrote for this one newspaper, the Florida Flambeau. It had been around for like 90 years. Like this is like 1997, 1998, and they're like, Florida Flambeau, serving Tallahassee since 1918, and then I was there for like a semester, and they went out of business. So then I wrote for another newspaper called Break. It was like a arts newspaper in Tallahassee, and I continued to write for them. I moved back here after college, saved up some money, and moved with a buddy to San Francisco to California. And I was working jobs there, and I continued to write for Break until they went out of business too. And then
happens a lot, right?
I guess so.
Publishing space, whatever.
Yeah.
So, did you remember when you were a kid, like your first love of writing? I remember like my family got off to that. Like I wrote like this like Harry Potter spinoff when I was a little kid, and like my godmother was like a publisher, like she was like head of a publisher, so like. Honestly, it was like a really like dark, like fiction. It was like really dark, but that's like the only time I remember really writing, and like that I guess was enough, like to like set some seeds in place. But yeah, I think there's probably some usually signs in your childhood, right?
Yeah. I guess I always loved reading. When I was a kid, I loved comic books. I loved choose your own adventure books. I love those, and I guess I always like telling stories too. And my dad is like a big storyteller. Like he loves to tell stories, and so I guess I grew up hearing those. And then the written form I guess is the way to make it the most concrete story. Because anytime you tell a story orally, it's going to be different every time. So you write it down, and for better or for worse, that's it.
Yeah, so in your So when you were in San Francisco, I actually lived there for like about 3 years, yeah, or no, a couple years. Yeah, it's a beautiful city,
Yeah.
and yeah, what had you come back to Miami? Like, I guess what's the story of how you returned?
Yeah, so well, after San Francisco, I lived in LA for 8 years, trying to make
Oh,
it
yeah.
in the film business. You know, I was telling you, I
Everyone.
did that hike at Griffith Park, Runyon Canyon. I lived in Hollywood for 8 years. And then I met the woman I fell in love with. I was visiting my family over Christmas. I met her, and things didn't work out at first. And then a couple years passed, and we tried again. And I was like, she was in school, so I was like, all right, so I guess I got to move here to make it happen. And so I did, and we're still here.
You got some kids now? Yeah.
We got a 9.5-year-old daughter.
Nice. So yeah, I guess LA. How did you? I mean, you said you make it in film. Are you like a screenwriter? Is that
Yeah. So I moved there. I did some film classes, and then I got a job working for these two producers, and they had me reading scripts every day. I had to get their lunch. I had to do all this, buy the groceries in the office, all this stuff, answer phone calls. But one of my main jobs was I had to read all the scripts that came in, and give coverage. I had to do like basically book reports on the scripts, so they didn't have to read them. They knew what they were about. And I tell them like these scripts are all garbage. I could do better than this. So they gave me the opportunity to write a script of a movie. I don't know if you heard of this dog, Rin Tin Tin. You heard of him? Yeah, he was like before Lassie. He was like the #1 movie star in America in the 1920s. He was like a dog. So I wrote the true story, and they actually made a movie out of it. It took a couple of years, but they actually made a movie out of it. And I was like, all right, I made it. I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna make it as a filmmaker. But I've had a lot of stops and starts. I haven't had movie #2 made, but that movie's out. It's a kids movie, and I think it's on Peacock or something. It's on various streaming services.
You can watch it later.
You can watch it on Peacock. Right. Yeah.
It's called Rin Tin Tin?
Finding Rin Tin Tin.
Finding Rin Tin Tin.
Yeah. So I wrote that. That's my claim to fame.
You think that's your most successful work? Or probably most watched or most read or most viewed or what?
It's the one I got the most money from, I guess.
Yeah. That's a good way to quantify things.
And I guess I guess there was the most money behind it. There's like actors people have heard of in it, so I guess it has the most legitimacy of anything, I guess. Yeah.
So I read you have 2 books. It's like End of the World and like Yo-Yo or something.
Yeah.
Interesting. So when did you first write your first book? Was it End of the World or what?
So I wrote my first book. I started when I was young, like you. I was 16. I was walking on the beach, and I had this idea for a book. It was an idea for a movie. It was going to be like a epic, like trilogy, like 3-part thing. But to my credit, to my demeanor, I never wrote the trilogy, but I wrote one whole book. Being 16 and 17, I sat down and wrote that whole book. It was called A King's Tale and Other Generic Stories. And it was about a kid named Arthur King, kind of like you, I guess, like supernatural, like you said, you wrote a Harry Potter-ish. This was like a kid who an alien comes and gives him this ball, and anything he imagines can come true, so he makes himself king of the world. And so I like sent it out. I was like, hey, I'm a 17-year-old kid. I wrote this great book, 18-year-old kid. And actually I got a lot more responses than I did as like in my 30s trying to get an agent or whatnot. I actually got a lot of response, but nothing, I guess I was kind of green, I wasn't professional yet. And then I wrote another book, and another, and another, and another. And then,
so there's been many.
There's been many.
Those are those 2 that I found out about.
Those are the only 2 that are out. No, there's a third one.
So the ones are not out?
Yeah, they're in my desk drawer. They're on my computer.
Okay. Many authors do write books they never share, that's for sure. My dad wrote some stuff. And
did he?
We're like, where? He's like, yeah, I gave it to you. I was like, what? We don't remember where these are, but yeah, I mean, like, a lot of writers, it's not uncommon to not share your book or to forget about it. Yeah, so...
What was your dad's book about?
Oh, I don't even know, but
no.
yeah, it's one of those things. I think there's a lot of people who write books that go nowhere. I mean, it's a good practice for sure. I mean, my guidebook is like a yearly practice now that I do. And so every year has a theme, and like this year's was about fortitude, because last year was so difficult for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
And then what's cool is like I'm designing a ritual every time that's getting more and more detailed. And obviously I'm a big ritual designer, so next year it's going to be all about playfulness.
All right.
And so this whole year now is like a whole, it's playfulness year, and it's going to culminate in a release of a book about playfulness. And then I'm going to move on to next year's topic. But I commit to writing a guidebook every year.
Are you going to have a part about playfulness about basketball?
I mean, basically, the way I theme it is like 22 virtues every time.
Okay.
And they each have metaphors, and they have rates. Rates are like ideals that I designate. And then it makes life a game a little bit. And then there's challenges and a lot of things. So, but basically, because of this format that I created, you know, one of the virtues could be basketball. And then I would just like write an intro about basketball, and then like some certain ideals, challenges, metaphor. I mean, like, anyway, so like next year is going to be a lot about synchronicities, how to enjoy. I think there's nothing that, I think it's awe. I think really what it comes down to is how to live an awe-filled life, right?
Uh-huh.
And that means being in the now. That means being in wonder, being in surrender, and not needing to know how everything happens necessarily, right? And so yeah, it's going to be basically next year's book is going to be a lot more fun. This year I wrote it actually more for people at the margins. So, you know, people in prison, people in mental health. In the book, there's no need for money or anything. Like, there's no talk about diet. It's really bare bones. Like, you could be in a prison cell and still utilize this stuff. And so that's kind of like the mindset I wrote it in. And it is more of like a pamphlet. It's more of like it is more of like I'd say like a pamphlet or something. It's a guide, you know, like. But what's cool is it's a yearly thing. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I was thinking, man, how awesome basketball is, right? Like you got the Michael Jordan poster up there, but I was thinking there's no other way. Like as people, I mean, I guess women are kind of excluded from it, but like, I mean, you go to play tennis and you go to play golf. You know, it's very exclusionary. But you go out to the basketball court with just a ball and you make friends.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of amazing. Like, there's no other thing like that in society. Like, I don't know. Maybe is there anything else that's like
No.
that? Right? I mean,
Yeah, well, here's the thing about basketball. It's very easy to play by yourself. Because first of all, I kind of have to go around the world and warm up before I'm in the mood to even play. Like, you guys caught me at a good time. I did my little around the world, and I was ready to go. That's why I shot so well, by the way.
there you go. Yeah.
But, like, a lot of the other sports, like, you can't throw a football to yourself. You can't.
Yeah, true.
You know, you can go to the driving range and practice your drive.
Hit against the
know.
wall for tennis.
But
I guess.
can you really make some friends on the driving range that easily? No, people are in their own kind of like. So like it has it has the open-endedness of, oh, I'm gonna go and enjoy shooting, and I may meet some friends, and I may do a podcast with someone I meet. And it's just kind of beautiful, right? And like, thank God, dude. Like, it's been a drought. I haven't done a pod, but yeah, basketball is a wonderful sport. Guess what? Lenten season, like right now, what we're in right now is like spring. This is basketball season. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
true.
Baseball is starting, sure. But right now it's all about March Madness, NBA Finals. So like, yeah, it's a big time for basketball. So like, that's definitely, you know, in the seasons right now. And so we're talking about how you basically wrote a lot of books that went nowhere. But what would you say? Like, how do you first of all describe why like The End of the World and Yo-Yo, like those went somewhere, those became something?
Yeah.
How was that?
So I self-published one of the books I wrote like a long time ago when I was younger. This one called Deadbeat. I tried to make it. I wrote a script of it too. I tried to make it into a movie. So I was like, all right, let me try to self-publish it myself. But I kind of hit a wall. Like, basically, just like friends and family bought it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a cool book. That was a cool story. It's about a private investigator here in Miami who's hired to find his own son he abandoned 20 years earlier. So I always thought it was a great story, and so I published it myself. I had a good friend of mine make the cover, And so yeah, that was like 2012 or something. I did that 2013, something like that. And then all of a sudden, my daughter was born in 2013, and I was like, you know, daddy daycare at home. You know, my wife was at work, and I was doing my freelance writing jobs, and I was watching her, and all this time I was kind of like, I don't know, because I had so much responsibility then. I guess I was like formulating in my head a time when I was like my most free, which is when I moved to California with a friend, and I had, you know, I just brought the stuff in the back of my car, and that was it. You know, I didn't really know what I was doing going out there, and so I was going back into that time in my head, and I don't know. So I kind of wrote a fictionalized version of that. I imagined these two guys, instead of moving from Florida to California, they moved from California to Florida in 1999, the end of the century. And I don't know if you remember, I know you're a bit younger than me, but like 1999 was like this weird time because nobody knew like what was going to happen on December 31st, 1999. They were like, oh, is Jesus going to come back to Earth? Is the world going to end? And the other thing was like this Y2K thing, where they thought all the computers would collapse because they wouldn't have the dates right. Like they would all not, like planes wouldn't remember how to fly because they wouldn't know what to do once they hit 12/31/99. They wouldn't know what to do when it comes next. So I had this idea at that time because it was a time, the only time since then, this book came out in 2018, the only time since then, I mean, COVID was kind of like that. We didn't know what was going to happen. You know, everyone was like, you know, we're on uncharted territory here. And like 1999 felt a little bit like that too. So I thought I'd have the book take place back then. And two guys just moved to Miami, and they come here searching for the fountain of youth.
It is here, actually. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, no,
it's the ocean mostly. The ocean, the
ocean
sun,
could be. Yeah.
Diversity. Yeah.
Yeah, because like Ponce de Leon, he came here looking for the fountain of youth. He came to Key Biscayne, and he was searching for it, and we'll never know if he found it. Maybe he's out there on the beach, running out there.
Yeah. So, okay, they came here, and then what happened?
So they come here, and one of the guys, Jay. So one of the main guy, Matt, is his girlfriend just broke up, and his buddy Jay is like an opportunist. He like knows he's ready for anything. He's ready to leave town. He's ready to leave California. So he's like, let's go to Florida. Let's come to Florida. So Jay is kind of a schemer, and Matt's kind of like a searcher. He doesn't know what to do with himself. And Matt rents an apartment in Coconut Grove, finally with a strange roommate. He gets a job working at the Borders, and he kind of finds himself. And spoiler, I guess the book came out 4 years ago. The book ends, it's called The End of the Century, and the book ends with them counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's the end. It's the end of the century, the end of the book.
Nice. And were most of the book sales like Miami people, or how did you market it? What was the making it a success of marketing? How did that happen?
So yeah, we so a local publisher published at Jitney Books. So we had a nice reading at Books and Books in Coral Gables. We had a nice full room, and then I had my editor at the time at Miami New Times was kind enough to run an excerpt in the paper of the stories. That was huge. And then I had an awesome night. So I've been writing about music all this time. So at the bar Gramps in Wynwood. So I had this great night. I didn't sell too many books in the night, but I think it was a fun night for everyone. I asked a lot of musicians I knew I'd written about over the years. I asked, hey, would you be willing to play a night for me around the book? You have to play one cover song from 1999, and you can play your set. So I had a lot of great bands play that night, and one stand-up comedian, I told him he had to make jokes like it was 1999. So we had a fun night that night, and yeah, we've been setting up tables around town. We've been doing fairs. We've had tables at the book fair the last couple of years.
How long ago was that out?
That book came out, 2018, I think.
Oh yeah, not that far along.
And then Yo-Yo came out a year and a half ago. Yo-Yo came out.
So all right, in more of a nutshell, what's the Yo-Yo all about?
Yo-Yo is a comedy about the world's greatest yo-yoer, Benny James. And he becomes a vigilante at night with his yo-yo fighting crime. And the first draft was a little edgy. I wrote that one a while ago too, and JJ, the publisher, wanted to publish another book of mine. The Other Century did pretty well, so I was like, "Well, how about yo-yo?" So I kind of cleaned it up. I wrote it. He was kind of he was having sex, doing drugs, and I kind of like I was like, let me make this like all ages friendly, you know. So I took out all the curse words. I made him a little more wholesome. And I think it's something, you know, it was funny at the book fair, all these, my biggest sellers were all, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but all these like middle schoolers were buying the book. You know, they're all lining up, and we had like, our publisher, we had 13 different books, and they're all going for yo-yo, so that was kind of cool. I hope they and their parents approve of it.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's, you widened the potential scope of your audience, which is very important. I think that's, I mean, it's nice. Have you experienced, you know, have you gone about marketing it yourself when it comes to like social media or Facebook marketing, stuff like that?
Yeah, it's tricky. I have. But I found like events, like I feel like people buy the book in person. They're like, oh, you're the author, they buy the book. I felt like so far in my experience, that's been the best way to sell books. Like I know our publisher was written up in Jitney Books was written up in Publishers Weekly, which is the #1, you know, publication about publishers. And how many books, how many sales came out of that magazine article? Do you think it was a nice feature story, beautiful feature story?
Like 5,000.
0. They didn't sell a single one. So I don't know. Maybe we're doing something wrong, but yeah, we found. The best way to sell books is we've gone to like events and stuff and have a table and people come, oh, what are these books about? We have like nice covers.
How much does the book cost?
$15.
Yeah.
And then so I should have brought some over, but next time we play basketball, I'll bring one.
Cool. And then Jitney, like, so what's the process like for? How fast is the turnaround on like printing? Because like I got a book, you know.
Yeah.
I do want to print it, especially so I can give it for free to like, you know, mental hospitals or prisons great. Or places like that. That's the people I really want to reach, you know, like for free. And then I like to do some seminars on it. Like, there's 22 virtues, and you give me 1 hour, I can do like a Tony Robbins like 1 hour seminar. Yeah. Like kind of like, well, it's all based on the circle of life. So I discovered there is like a circle of life of you know, certain. Well, you learn about things like, well, basically it follows the 7 deadly sins, basically. You conquer every single deadly sin in order to live forever, basically. And the last one is...
Brad Pitt would be proud of that.
The last one is wrath to gentleness is the one, that's the last one. Yeah. When you find yourself being gentle with your family, that's when you've arrived. Because they're some of the hardest people to be gentle to.
It's true.
People who have seen you at your worst.
Are you able to be gentle with your family?
I still have moments where I flare up. Like, I was flared up on my mom the other day. Cause, like,
it's tough.
She's like, no, you can't travel. I'm like, Mom, I'm 30 years old. I do whatever I want. Like, but it's just like, yeah, sometimes family has, like, these nightmares of, like, oh, you went and lost everything traveling one day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was my weakness in my 20s, was my love of travel. And now I realize, yeah, you really got to budget it out properly and be mature. But also, the more you find your place of service, the more you conquer that escapism, really. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with travel. I love to travel. I'd like to go to Rio soon, but I think the more you do find your place of belonging and service, the less you need to escape, you know? And so that's something I've learned recently is investing more in my service here in Miami, you know, like teaching yoga and, you know, like leading like remote worker, like connecting, basically welcoming a lot of new people to the city. That's what I do.
Nice.
And so I feel like the nice fulfillment from that. But yeah, I still flare up at family occasionally, and that's where I know like I still have work to do, you know. But like that's when like if I haven't had a flare up in a few months, that's when I know like okay,
it's coming.
I've reached a new point
okay,
here.
All right, yeah.
It is something important to note that you know, with great humility, great spiritual power comes immense gentleness and kindness, right? You really do kiss the ground with your feet at that point. And, you know, I even do that. Like, when I run. And kissing the ground with your feet means putting your heart into every step and little things like that. But, opening your heart in that fashion, and I do that. But again, it's those moments with family, especially if you go back to your home in a situation where you've had bad memories or you've exploded. You're just in a certain environment that can be, it can be inducive to some flare-ups, because you have to get out of that, that inclination to go back into your old ways, right?
Well, it's interesting when I think about it this way. Like, my daughter's 9 now, and it feels like just the other day, like I was changing her diapers. You know what I mean? So I still have that thing. Hey, I change your diapers. You can't talk to me like that. So, like, I imagine, I'm 44. Like, I imagine my mom is still like that about me. I was just changing your diapers the other day. Like, you can't, you got to listen to what I'm saying here.
Yeah, family, man. So, yeah, I mean, that's forever interesting, yeah. But the gentleness. Anyway, the circle of life is a real thing, and it does kind of turn on itself because every day is like a circle of life, right? And you do start with certain things like, I think what is it, sloth. You start with control. I even forgot it already, but no, it's all in my book. If you want to go, SimbaGuidebook.com.
Simba Guidebook, all right.
And that's just the ebook version. That's just like bare bone freaking screenshots. But I'm gonna work on with you. Maybe I'll find out how to do it. Looking forward to getting like a pamphlet or something. It is like a self-help pamphlet guidebook. It's very practical, useful. It's kind of like something you can take to the beach, and it could transform with some space in there for writing out like active adjustments that you're going to make, like taking action upon these suggestions, and like there's some space for taking action and actually transforming your life with these virtues. So I do still care deeply about it, but I'm more focused on Miami right now and in this podcast season. So I'm curious, how did you first get connected with Miami New Times and writing with them?
So I ran into this woman I knew from high school, Liz Tracy, and she was just named the music editor of. They used to have a sister paper, Broward Palm Beach New Times, so she was the music editor then. And I was like, hey, do you need a writer? Because you use one. I hadn't written journalism in like 10 years since like college or right after college at that point. She's like, yeah, I could use you. So I was, it was perfect for me because it was something I could do at any time, during my daughter's nap time. And so yeah, I was intense. I was like writing a lot of stories, and she gave me a lot of leeway. It could be anything about music, and they needed a lot of material then. They needed like 3 stories a day. So I was pretty much writing a story a day, and she let me write fun things like Billy Joel was coming in town. And you remember that song, We Didn't Start the Fire?
Yeah.
So I wrote like a silly thing like, we didn't start the fire, like the next verses. Like I did like, instead of like, I'm trying to remember the lines. It's like AIDS, crack, homelessness, we didn't start the fire. He says all these things from every year. So I kind of did that, like Monica Lewinsky, O.J. Simpson, something like that. So that was like a fun one I wrote. But like it was mostly concert reviews. And then
so you go
started
to concerts for free?
Yeah, I got paid. I got paid to after write about it.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah. So like a couple weeks ago, I reviewed Bruce Springsteen at the Hard Rock. So that
they just pay you to go to the shows, and that's a dream job, man.
Yeah. I'm a huge music fan.
Probably doesn't pay the rent, but
no. Yeah, I have some other writing
yeah.
work. Yeah. It's fun. It pays a little. It pays for the groceries, I guess, but not the rent. But yeah, it's fun, and I love music. I love talking. Like what you're doing, I'm on the other side. I'm interviewing them. And
so you go. How do you? So what's been one of your secrets, maybe, of connecting with these artists?
Yeah, a lot of times they or their publicists reach out to me. Hey, can you write about them?
Really?
Yeah. And I've gotten to interview a lot of my musical heroes. I got to interview Isaac Brock of Modest Mouse, Tribe Called Quest. I got to interview.
Nice.
Them. He has like a night in Wynwood at 1-800-LUCKY. I got to interview him there. Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys I got to interview. That was huge. David Crosby, who just passed away from like Crosby, Stills and Nash. I got to interview him a couple times. The Pixies. I love the Pixies. I got to.
So how many of these reached out to you versus you proactively?
I don't know how to give a percentage. I don't know. Sometimes like I'll see like a concert coming in town, like I didn't get to interview him, but I went to the like Big Thief. I like that band Big Thief. So I pitched to my editor. I was like, he's like, oh no, we already got someone covering that one. So that's one I went after. But a lot of times my editor will come after me like, hey, do you want to write about this guy, or this woman? And then sometimes the publicist will come to me, or the artist will come to me and say, hey, can you write about my new album, or can you write about my concert coming? And I'll pitch the editor, hey, could you use a story about this band or this DJ or this rapper? And that's how it goes. I'd say it's probably 50-50.
Oh.
The editor comes to me or I go to him.
Not bad, dude.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's. I think in the future, even with local voices, I think it's going to be more like that. I'm going to start doing more marketing towards entrepreneurs, you know, who want to like kind of like capture everything they offer in like 1 hour, you know, like kind of put a nice. I think it's like a showcase, basically. You know?
Yeah.
And, I'm looking forward to getting a fun picture of you, maybe somewhere, maybe your place of work. I'll come to your office.
Maybe shooting hoops. Maybe get me hitting a 3.
Is that what you want? All right.
Yeah, right.
So, all right. So you love basketball. This is how
that.
this all started. So, like, what's the story? Like, were you like crushing it in high school, or what's going on, man?
Dude, I was just saying to my wife the other day, because I was telling her how much I love basketball. I didn't play for 3 years. COVID, I didn't play. I got into tennis. I got back into tennis. And
Why did that stop you? The courts were open over there.
They were closed actually.
Oh, actually, you're right. You're right. That pissed me off.
They took the baskets off, I think.
Yeah. That was terrible, man.
And then I was also paranoid.
Depression.
I was paranoid about getting COVID too. You know, for some of that time. And I was like, oh, where do you have more closer contact to someone than playing basketball, right?
It's true. It's true.
I mean, so I stayed away, and then I was like, what the? Can I curse?
Sure, man.
Okay,
Sure.
I was like, I'll keep it family friendly. What the heck? You know, when I play tennis, I love basketball. I can still, you know, as long as I still can move around a little, you know, I won't always be able to play. Let me enjoy these last years of being able to play basketball. So I've gone back into it, and yeah, I love. No better feeling, I think. You know, it's a cheap thrill, and
No. Hey, that's honestly, I credit basketball to a lot of my flow. Is like. It's something about just seeing it go in all the time, man. Like, it's nice, dude. Like
making a great pass, you know.
You work out the kinks by yourself too. When an opportunity to flow is something very scientific, you know. Like you get flow from cooking, right? Like it's really just successful touches in sequence. And so when you can make a bunch of shots in a row, it feels great, man.
Yeah.
And so like I love going around the world. Is a game I'll play forever or myself because it's like a warm up. It's working out the kinks. It's observing success. You know, like I start most of my Saturdays way like I don't always even play 2-on-2. Like sometimes I just go around the world and I'm satisfied because I always here's a tip. I always have to make at least 3 in a row before I leave.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a tip about life. Get through the tough. Like end on a good note. Like you're reading a book and it's like going through a shitty part. Like get to the where it gets a little better and then stop reading for the day. Like end on a good note. You can do that with a lot of things. You'd be surprised, you know.
I heard good advice about writing, which I try to keep with when I'm writing something longer, like a book or a screenplay. And it's along those lines. It's like, don't stop for the day when you're out of ideas. Always stop when you have like one more idea left, because then you can know where to go when you sit down
momentum in the morning.
time.
Yeah. So with new times and. Like when you write about these people and you interview, where do you interview them typically? Like you
on
go
the phone.
Oh, it's all
sometimes Zoom, but I prefer phone because it gets kind of awkward. Because a lot of times I'm writing what they're saying. So like on the Zoom, they're like, how come you're not giving me eye contact? It gets a little awkward. I feel like on the Zoom, but like the phone, it's easier because I don't know what you're doing like while you're interviewing them, you know. And so yeah, phone. I've done some in person, but in person's cool too. But that's also they're kind of like, okay, why aren't you writing that part down? You
You don't record it?
Sometimes I record, but usually I write it. Usually I just write it. And
yeah, I know Judd Apatow like got his start like interviewing everyone with a recorder, like all his idols. Like, yeah, I mean, I have a saying like the second you record something, it becomes art. You know, like just putting something out there. You know, like. And there's a few things that come with art, but yeah, I think basically, like what I'm curious about is also maybe your process about exposing yourself to, what are your sources? What are some maybe sources that you have that are unique? Because Miami New Times is a source for me to be curious about Miami, who to interview, whatever. What are some of your maybe unique sources that you have?
As far as finding about music or about
yeah, like for stories or
yeah,
whatever.
it's kind of interesting, huh? How like social media has kind of become a source. Like sometimes I'll see people post something on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and I'll check them out. A lot of times, like I say, I get emails, or like.
What are some of your favorite weekly, daily emails? Because I'm all about
like newsletters and stuff.
I love like the Roar. I read the Bible in the morning, New York Times. Like pretty committed to some key. I think I actually aspire to turn my book into a sequence of emails people can get, but also someday I'll have emails going out. I think email is where you get into someone's life for real when they subscribe to your emails, for sure.
Huh. Yeah.
Like that's a sign, because like, you can sell books, you can do podcasts, but like email lists are legit. Like email lists that are respected are legit. They're legit. They get into people's lives, like for sure, and they're helpful.
Interesting.
And I'm very thankful for the emails in my life. So, what are some emails you subscribe to? Maybe you can share.
Let's see. As far as emails, I think the only one I don't even subscribe. I just constantly check it a little bit. It's weird. It's just been the last couple of weeks. Like, I'm a comic book nerd. I always grew up like Yo-Yo's kind of influenced by comic books. So there's this one from this like Marvel Comics editor called Tom Brevoort. Right, it's kind of random, and somehow like I found out about it. He talks about like I guess he's been an editor at Marvel Comics for the last 30 years, and so he just talks about like comic books, and for some reason I find that fascinating, and so that's the one I do. As far as other publications, I read the New Yorker magazine and Mojo Music. It's like a British music magazine. I think it's awesome. I subscribe to that, and I get the print issue. It comes with a CD every month, but I don't have anywhere to put in the CD anymore. So
yeah, it's funny. I don't even have a CD player.
I know it's
the laptops used to have the spot for them, but now
I know my cars used to have a spot for them, and I'm like, damn, I have all these CDs.
I bet you go to like Target, you can't even find a CD player. You're like, anyway, but yeah, that's great. Also, I was curious. So you're someone who studies characters. I'm someone who studies characters. What do you think defines character? Like, what makes a character a character? It's like open-ended.
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I guess it's their history and their personality, right? I mean, I think it's what shaped them and how they behave.
What they're committed to as well.
Yeah, well, commitments can come and go, I think, right? I mean, I get in an argument with my wife all the time. She's a therapist, and I say people can't change. You are who you are. And she obviously her life revolves around helping people change, and your life too. But I feel like you are who you are, like in a weird way. Like I remember when this is kind of a long story. I'll try to make it short. My car died, and this guy was telling me my daughter was young, and my brother, you met, his wife's dad picked me up. It was somewhere in Central Florida, and he was telling me, "Oh, your kid is exactly who they were when they were a baby," and he was right. My daughter is who she was when she was 2 months old, as she is at 9, and maybe she'll change. We like to feel we change, but I don't know. Maybe we are who we are. Maybe we're fully formed when we come out of the womb.
Well, I'm not sure what to say about that one. I think, I was like a huge like I had social anxiety like crazy in school, and obviously like that became my founding flaw, like my personal legend. If you've read The Alchemist, that was my personal legend that made me want to be the most connected motherfucker, forgive me, on the planet. Like that's what drives me, and that's why I live in the center of South Beach. That's why I'm starting a podcast network. And that's why, I dream big, because I was like blocked from being connected. Like I always lived on the margins. Like my family was always far from school. I didn't have a car. My mom had to drive me everywhere. Like it was just painful. So I think I'll say this, like, can people change? Can they not? But I'd say in an overall character arc of someone's life, it's usually the pain that really shapes someone in the beginning that drives them to get rid of that thorn in their side and maybe make it a strength of theirs, right? Because as we know, you tear, no pain, no gain. Muscle is all about muscle tear and then muscle build. So I think, whatever your thorn is in your side in your youth does end up sometimes becoming your strength. And so, you wonder, I'm someone who actually focuses deeply on transformation, right? Like my life coaching, like 3-month seasons, like transformation. And so I do believe people can change. I think there's a degree of openness an energy that has to be there, infused. But like, what is transformation but an energy infusement that leads to, a big change, right? And so I guess I'll be your devil's advocate. I think people can change.
Yeah.
I think they need to be opened up to it with tremendous energy, though.
Well, they say, I don't know if this is true. I read this. I've taken it as fact that every 7 years, every cell in your body is different from 7 years.
Oh yeah, your skin is constantly regenerating. Yeah. Like I'm about to do a 3-day fast, which I do 4 times a year for longevity, and that also the autophagy, like basically it helps you clear out all your dead cells. Your stomach microbiome completely resets. So you can actually you can force yourself into a little suffering so that you don't have. I don't believe you can live life without any suffering. Like the universe will always kind of fuck with you, but I think you can set up these checkpoints, and I call them, pit stops. Like it's part of my book. I have like a Formula One metaphor for my book, where if you set up your own pit stops with these habits of gratitude, of this, that, you don't fall into the pitfalls. You don't blow up. You don't this, that, because you're actively setting up pit stops for yourself, right? And so, that's something where, I think it's beautiful. The human body, the science, it's fascinating, man. And I never get tired of reading about science of wellness, and honestly, like the detail and the intelligence of our bodies is really amazing. And but I think we are constantly changing, I guess, in a way. Our skins, everything is new. It's being renewed.
Yes, I
constantly.
guess we do change. I guess we do.
I mean,
physically, I guess physically.
We all know people who are closed.
Yeah.
So I'm someone who wonders how to open people to more generosity, how to open people, And I think writers often open people if they can get into the brain of someone, right? If they can get into the... but not enough people read these days, man. Like, how do you think? So part of my book's actually 50% of profits go towards childhood literacy efforts.
Great.
And so I've sold very few so far. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
But in the future, maybe we talk about getting a pamphlet or something out there. It shouldn't be too difficult. There's some good promos, some seminars from Simba. I think it can take off and do a lot of good. And so. Actually, I would like to motivate more self-help authors to dedicate their books to a cause. It gives you some motivation while you're writing it, but also all along the way, it kind of is infused. And I think there's a whole lot of fun projects in our lives that we can just take a stand and say, you know what? I'm so blessed. I have enough. I have all I need. Like, this is a project that I love. I'm going to dedicate half to this cause.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I think more and more celebrities, artists could do that. Could take a stand. All right, I'm going to call out James Clear. So it's funny, like my fam gave me Atomic Habits for like my birthday, Christmas, the book, and I was like, oh, I already read this, which is true. Like I had a phase. I mean, I read a little slower now, but I read a lot of self-help. It's kind of like my space, and he gives 10% to charity.
Great.
Or 5%. But I'm like, add a 0, man. But no, the truth is, the more you believe in your ability to put out more and more content, the less you feel like you need to like get all of like everything out of that one book. It's kind of a spirit of abundance. So you have to be in a spirit of saying, you know what, I love writing enough, and I believe in my future enough that I'm going to keep pumping out this stuff.
Yeah,
I have faith. So why not outflow half of it to a good cause?
For all, or like.
I mean, it's nice to have a little reward, But I think.
Yeah, but I mean.
I think half is good. But anyway, like.
We should also, like you said, you were telling me when I came in, the sharing economy. You were talking about the sharing economy.
Oh yeah. Oh well, how
Yeah.
possessions versus now how easy
Yeah.
it is to rent things. Look, I mean, it goes back to Jesus, all that. I'm not the first one to tell people to give up their possessions, but what's new today is that you can take a freaking Uber, you can freaking rent a helicopter, you can freaking do whatever you want on the renting sharing economy, and
Yeah.
that is just a game. It's a no-brainer to basically offload these concerns.
But it's kind of interesting, right? It's like a capitalist communism. You know what I mean, right? It's like communism. We're all sharing these things. We're all sharing these cars. We're all sharing these boats. We're all sharing these apartments. But there's like the exchange of capital to get them. It's kind of interesting.
Well, I'd say this. So there's something about when you do leverage the sharing economy, you are also outsourcing the maintenance of these things. In a way, like when you do have possessions, it doesn't mean you have to maintenance them. You have a boat, now you got to worry about when you're going to clean your boat. And so to live a truly rich life is to actually enjoy your budgeting. It's one of the biggest tricks, is to really enjoy, like for me, I have a Saturday budget now, which is conditional upon certain things in my week, like my games that I play, like my living. And that budget is fun. It's variable. It's something I can book a lot of things with that budget.
Nice.
And so
yeah, you said you're going to Brazil. You're going to
look, like the way you can just book things. The key is to not weigh yourself down. And actually today on SRF, Sundays when I lunch, I like to watch Self-Realization Fellowship. They have YouTube chats. And they had a beautiful, they actually talked about the joy of downsizing. So they talked about a woman who had a lot of houses and places, and she asked herself, what parts of these houses do I actually really enjoy? And she had specific spots in the house that she would actually use. And then there was so much waste. There was so much junk that she wasn't using.
Yeah.
And she realized, what if I design a house where it's like bare boned everything I need, like everything that I liked from all these places is all together minimal, And anyway, when you simplify your life, you simplify your concerns essentially. So it's something that I hope to help guide a lot of celebrities in simplifying their lives and dedicating themselves to causes. Now, what happens is pleasure. I got to say, I'm someone who studies brain chemistry and all these pleasure chemicals and everything. So, when you are, and I guess enough smiles, enough screenshots might prove it. But like when you do live a life of purpose and service and gratitude and prayer and all that, you are rewarded. And I don't know how to motivate people other than to show them constantly the smiles. Like I have rates I come up with all the time. So rates. So one of my favorite mantras is it's the rate that makes the game or something. Anyway, when you notice it's numbers that make something technically gamified. You have to put a number on it, right?
Okay.
And so that way you're tracking it. It's up or down. Then you notice what affects the up or down, right? So, basketball. What did you do well to make that shot, or why did your team win that day? Like, what were the adjustments that you made, whatever. Anyway, when you set actual rates for things, you allow yourself to notice up or downs. And one thing is like the smile rate, and also one thing is a shared reciprocated laughter rate is one of my things on my podcast.
All right.
And I have a joke rate, like number of laughs per day. But the beauty of all my rates is I really don't care about tracking them too much, but I do enjoy noticing them go up or down and noticing signs of that's if this is happening a lot, this is a sign of this is so I have one of my rates is just whatever I say, no one knows what's going to happen. I say that sometimes.
Okay.
Because the truth is, life
nobody
is
knows.
completely spontaneous.
Well, maybe someone does know. I don't know.
I tell you,
I'd like to meet that
I tell you
person.
absolutely. No. No, I'm here to tell everyone it's completely uncertain. Everyone, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've kind of reached a certain amount of top of knowledge, and it's all spontaneous. There's probabilities. It's all wetware. It's all. But nature doesn't know numbers. But what it does know is it's momentums and probabilities are real. So yeah, there's probabilities of certain things, but there's absolutely no like what do you say, destiny or
would
like.
you want to know? Would you want to know everything that's going to happen?
No.
No.
Oh, the
Okay.
most enjoyable thing is to not know and to
Yeah.
be in wonder and awe and watching things happen. So also, yeah, basically nothing is predestined. No one knows for sure what's going to happen. And for example, the way I look at the world, the way my brain works is like, yeah, the number of times per day that I say no one knows what's going to happen is a sign that I'm opening myself to a lot of possibilities. It's a sign that there's a lot of uncertainty coming my way, and I'm open to it. And so, like for example, that's just like a sign of things. And like, here's one joke at the Gruts. Like I say this sometimes, like, because this is from Bruce Almighty. Like, the way the cookie crumble. Like when I'm really happy, I just go the way the cookie crumble. Because Dave Grutman loves cookies, and like also, it's like a Bruce Almighty thing. But like for me, it's like for when I'm feeling in the air, like the vibrations. Like when I say that, something's going on in Miami. Like a lot of celebrities are like going to all Dave Grutman's like restaurants and things. Like it's just like look, we're sentient beings. We feel vibrations upon our heart. And when you become really, really sensitive, yes, you can set your own rates. You say, hey, when I do this, okay, so for most of my rates, I go, okay, this is the rate, and I set an ideal for the rate. I say, ideally a lot, ideally a few, ideally 5, ideally this. How many laughs per day? Ideally 50. Or else my chakras are disturbed. Because guess what? When you laugh, it does disturb the very precious, how you say, like spiritual energy is tender and very and sensitive. So too much laughter does disturb you a bit from good sleep, from a lot of things. It disturbs the chakras. So turns out I set an ideal for laughs of 50. That's what I set. Right?
There you go. And do you force yourself to laugh?
No.
Okay.
But like I do notice an ideal, and I notice that every conversation I have, I tend to have very, very many. So it's a realistic goal.
Yeah, if you're not laughing, I guess, it's no fun if you're not laughing, right? I mean,
so anyway, with every rate, you can set an ideal. You can set an ideal average, right? But you can also say, oh, if that is increasing, it's a sign of this is going on in my life.
What about crying? Do you qualify that? Do you quantify that too?
I do have I have a journal of tears of joy and tears of sadness. And, it's inevitable. But yeah, I do have a diary of those, and I record them. Wow. And, yeah, I'll say smoking weed is inverse to crying, generally. It fades you a bit too much for that.
You don't cry when you get high?
No, not as much. No. But anyway, you don't want to force tears. I think some actors try to, but I think, I think the more I do track. Technically, I track a ton of things, but I'm the guy who tracks the least of things when it comes to like wearing watches and trackers and like, you know what I mean?
You keep track in your head.
Like, I'm aware of things.
Yeah.
I'm very aware, but I don't necessarily want to. Like, for example, one big lesson I have for people is to turn off that no tiff signal of your messages in your phone. Like I call the messages and the Instagram, I call them like birdie houses. So,
no, I don't.
No. Imagine before phones, we act, and even it kind of goes back to like Harry Potter, but like there was a space in time in history where we would actually send. Imagine, it's beautiful. We would send messages with birds. Oh yeah. Right. We taught. No, I think it's.
Someone was talking about it.
It's not just Harry Potter.
Pigeons would actually send it.
Yes, pigeons were sent.
Yeah.
And
I was
so
just talking about that with someone.
Imagine, like, it used to be. Okay, it could be pigeons. It could be couriers. Like all parts of the world had different ways of sending messages, right? But
how did they know where to go?
Forget the method of transportation. Okay. What I'm telling you is like the messages exchanges would happen at a slower rate, far slower.
Yeah.
So we weren't constantly being distracted by this, that, like. So one of the biggest lessons you can take from Simba is to turn off your no-tiffs, and like enjoy the space between the checks. I mean, when you have a family and kids that need you, that's a different thing. And when you're on duty, but when you're not necessarily, like,
turn off the Instagram.
It's great.
Turn off the Instagram.
Yeah, turn off the no-tiffs. As many no-tiffs as possible. Turn off, because there's a great joy that comes from being timeless and not being distracted constantly, right?
You
So,
know what I love to do? I love to just leave my cell phone at home.
Actually,
that's
here,
a great,
one of my biggest things.
We're like,
You-
when we
you
play
can
basketball,
go-
we're playing
yeah.
basketball. Neither of us say,
I leave my phone. I didn't have
Neither
my
of us had
phone.
our
You had to
yeah.
find me online.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
that's it's in my book actually. Is
Yeah.
try to find like a 2-3 hour stretch every day where you leave your phone behind and do something like good. Like when I go to the beach, I leave my phone
Yeah.
behind. And when I
You
go
don't want
out
it
in
to get
Miami
wet.
Beach, half the
Yeah.
time I'm not having my phone. And
You turn it off before you go to sleep?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Yeah,
it's on
I
Do
do
Not
too.
Disturb,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But like finding those times where you put away your phone and go out in the world with your house keys is beautiful. It's a lesson. I don't know. We're reaching the hour point.
Okay,
So,
cool.
all right. Usually we close it out. So you're now officially your local voices character. You're
Local
forever
voice.
immortal. Your story is
Hey.
shared, and we'd love to learn more about what makes you you, what gives you the energy. What is one of your like good habits, like morning habits, something like that you can share?
I don't have any. I wish I did.
What primes you to write?
What's one I should have?
How do you prime great writing? Like
How do I tell myself I'm a failure if I don't write? Is that good or is that bad? I don't know. No, either I'm inspired to do it, or I tell myself, hey, you're a fuck up if you don't take advantage of this time right now and write. So those are the two ways. Either I'm inspired or I self-flagellate.
How do you get inspired?
I self-flagellate. I have an idea. I have something in my head going through my head. I'm like, oh, that would be great. That'll be funny. That'll be moving. That'll be interesting. And I just
okay. How do you get your best idea? Is there anything actionable like routines
that other people
that
can
you
take
do
advantage of?
that we can learn from?
I'd say the two things for anyone who's going to be a writer is one, make the time to sit down and write and make sure you do write. You don't watch YouTube videos or whatever. Check your email. Sit down and write. I used to back in the day. I would write on pen and paper first and then type it down. But now I type it first. And the other thing is put yourself in as many interesting situations as you can. Like this, I didn't know you. You're like, hey, come over for some chili and do a podcast. And I think we've had a pretty interesting night. And if I closed off, I want to come, and you leave yourselves closed off to perhaps inspiration, conversation, or other ideas. So I say always keep yourself open to talk to strangers. I guess are the two main things. I found that helped me out as far as inspiration is just discipline and conversation, I guess.
Oh, that's key. I mean, yeah. When you commit to those times, and also the discipline about respecting that time, and not using it for other things. I think that's very key. As a writer, do you have a certain writing fuel, like coffee, or like what's your go-to? Like,
dude, I think it's just like a refrigerator with snacks that I can keep going up to and grabbing granola, making some quick toast with peanut butter on it. Just like chowing down.
So you're not peanut butter jelly. You're just straight peanut butter guy.
Once in a while, I get a little crazy. I have a little jelly on it. But yeah, usually it's a peanut butter. Usually I gotta get the peanut butter in the toast, the peanut butter on the bagel. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you have your own rituals too, right?
Yeah.
What's one of your funkiest rituals? I mean, that's basically what I'm asking.
Oh my goodness. My funkiest. I guess this is really funky. Sorry, this is TMI. Too much information.
No, we already said a few swears on here.
Okay.
It might be an explicit.
No,
episode.
this is TMI. I guess. My funkiest ritual is I don't even want to say it.
No, we're here. It's gonna be you threw yourself in there. It depends on the paper.
I'll leave you intrigued. I'll leave the audience out there intrigued. I'll leave it out there.
Please.
Right.
I make myself vulnerable all the freaking time.
All right. I'll leave myself vulnerable. Is every time after I number 2, I take a shower. That's my funkiest ritual.
Wow. So you plan that before your showers, then, ideally, right? Like,
yeah.
You found it into your lifestyle.
That's my ritual. Yeah.
I'll share you guys a funny TMI. I'll match you.
All right.
Hey, anyone who comes on the pod who shares something vulnerable, I'll share something vulnerable. So actually, my mountaintops in my week, what I define now is I have 3 mountaintops. I have an El Yunque mountaintop, I have a Rio de Janeiro mountaintop, and I have a Pride Rock, LA, Griffith Park mountaintop, because they're near the ocean, all of them, and whatever. We went over this, but What's funny is about in my week, what makes a mountaintop are the days or moments where I poop and then I share a video longer than a minute.
Okay.
Because I found that I find that pooping makes me more pure. Like it does for something. I think it's something I've noticed by being very sensitive. But I think I'm someone who's kind of like someone who shares a lot of my face out there, and I think you do peak your purity right after a poop. Like you drop out a lot. Yeah, it makes
you
sense,
feel
right?
Free, you're open.
And there's actually all right. Here's one last funny thing. Now we're sharing crazy stuff. I have rates, right? And they're endless, the rates, and one of the rates is called the light rate, and that's actually the number one rate for enlightenment. And guess what it is?
Pooping.
The number of seconds you spend on the toilet.
Okay, so you need less time or more time on the
So
toilet?
the less time you spend on the toilet, the more enlightened you are.
Yeah,
so it's actually truth. It's actually the truth. And so I'm someone who poops generally after my jogs, like my runs.
So then you're quick,
that's what shakes it out, and then it goes out real fast. And I feel like Krishna on the toilet, and I'm like, boom.
Go.
All right, that was wild. But I'll tell you, that's actually science. That's true. It's because everyone knows the opposite is someone who has to wake up and read a magazine for an hour on the toilet. Like, is that how you want to start your freaking day every day? Like,
that's my tough ritual.
Sorry, we went to some weird places. We're not. I rarely edit nothing, but how can we end on a better note? So consider you've had some fun. The chili was good.
Chili was great, man. I'm gonna focus on being there very quickly on the toilet later.
All right, let's get off the toilet.
Okay, all right.
Hey, this is Lent. It's all about purity. Anyway, I think it's only going to get. It can only go. No. It can only go up from here, and that's what I love. But when J-Lo comes on, we're not going to talk about poop.
Maybe she's known for her derriere.
But everyone gets a J-Lo treatment, so you get a J-Lo treatment, and we're going to end on a good note, okay? And on that note, so considering you had a good time, the chili was good. Considering you've interviewed a lot of cool people. Who's like some characters that might be good candidates for the podcast? Like who loves because like artists come through town, a lot of artists come through town, but who do you know who loves Miami, who lives here, of the artists that you interview? Like, are there any give me 2 or 3 that we can maybe
musicians
just get on the pod?
Yeah, man, you want musicians? I guess,
sure.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's funny. I got interviewed recently, and they asked me the same question: who in Miami can they introduce? And I said this guy Eric Garcia, who he writes. I also edit this blog, jitneybooks.com. I edit the blog, and Eric's contributed quite a bit. He's a local musician, and he recently did a blues opera. So he's like a blues guy. He plays with his band Juke, and he plays solo shows. He's a fun guy. He had a storytelling night too, so he might be a good talker. And then this other guy, he published with Jitney Books. He was a drummer too at one point, but he took over the storytelling night, and his last name is also Garcia. They're not related. Luis Garcia. He's very interesting. We sell his books. He was in prison for many years, and he learned to become a writer in jail. So he might be a good guest.
Especially because I have a goal to spread the books over there for the inmates. What about some of your more high profile stars, man?
Okay, you want some big timers? Yeah. Let's see who in Miami. I mean, mostly the high profile ones. I go through publicists, but I know the guy. What's his name? Jerobi. Like I was telling you, Tribe Called Quest.
Tribe Called Quest. I was just about to ask.
Yeah.
Tribe. I love Tribe Called Quest.
He has a night. I mean, you can find him on Instagram.
He's Miami based.
He lives in Miami, and at 1-800-LUCKY, this Asian place in Wynwood. He DJs once a week. I think Tuesdays or Wednesdays. So you could maybe go over there and ask him. And he was cool with interviewing. When I interviewed him, he was a personable guy. And he had great stories. I mean, he was there for the beginning of hip hop. He was there with De La Soul. One of their guys recently passed away. There's a lot of great old school rappers live here. I think another member of De La Soul lives here. Maybe you can go after Uncle Luke Campbell from Two Live Crew. He used to have a column in the New Times. What other kind of music are you into?
I listen to a lot of rap. I listen to
a lot of
salsa, Latin music, electronic.
Like...
I'm very, very diversified in my music taste.
I'll keep my ears open. I'll brainstorm now when see if I can
Sure.
connect.
Yeah,
with
we'll have a chance. Either way, it's gonna be a fun season. So looking forward. Thank you for being the first one, and yeah, it's been a little drought, and hey, we're looking to, I guess encapsulate great characters in their essence and showcase their life. Forever you have a recording of your life. Have you been interviewed like this before or no?
I don't think on video. No.
No.
We did
I haven't shared your
podcasts.
quirkiest habit like that.
Yeah, I didn't talk about my bowel movements. No, in any of
I didn't think you were gonna go there, man. I thought you had something.
I stopped myself, and then you were
like, my
pushing me.
my mom's gonna listen to this.
Let's make this interesting. Your mom's going to?
Absolutely.
Oh, then she's really gonna tell you you're wasting your life.
Well, no.
No, I'm just kidding.
We'll see if she even gets this far in the episode. I don't know. But either way, it was a pleasure. This is my favorite thing to do, so thank you for giving me the chance to, flex my purpose in a way. And we're freaking neighbors, so looking forward to playing more ball.
Yeah, it's true, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming. Hug it out. Hug it out.
Yeah, man.
All right, brother.